I'd like to introduce our moderator for today. Carolyn Johnson is a past district governor from Yarmouth, Maine. She currently serves as the vice chair of the Rotary Foundation's cadre of technical advisors and is past chair of the Basic Education and Literacy Rotary Action Group. Carolyn, welcome.
Thanks so much, Regina, and welcome to everyone who is joining us today. It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists for this discussion. First, we have Vanessa Vegas, who leads the Community, International, and Vocational Service portfolio on the Service and Engagement team at Rotary International. Vanessa supports district and club leaders to elevate community engagement and project impact. She collaborates in the strategic planning and evaluation of Rotary's network of resources, as well as project fairs. Prior to joining the Service and Engagement team, you may know of Vanessa from her work with the Grants, supporting and coaching Rotary members in Latin America on design and implementation of sustainable, high-impact projects. Before joining Rotary, Vanessa was part of an environmental department of an engineering and construction company in Venezuela, where she collaborated with community stakeholders to co-create socially appropriate solutions to minimize the social impact of their developments. Vanessa holds an undergraduate degree in sociology from Universidad Católica Andrés Bello in Venezuela and an MBA from Western Governors University in the United States. Our second panelist is Enadelsi Escobar King. Nellie, as she's known to her friends and family, lives in Panama City, Panama, after enjoying a long career with UNICEF, which took her to 5 continents and a variety of managerial positions. Nellie had her first high-level contact with Rotary while at UNICEF's supply headquarters in Copenhagen, where she coordinated a Rotary mission of the polio campaign. During her years with UNICEF, Nellie developed and managed programs in cooperation with various governments in both Latin America and Africa. Nellie graduated from the University of Western Ontario, Canada, where she received a Bachelor's of Science degree in chemistry and a Master's in Business Administration. A Rotary member since 2015, Nellie has served in multiple positions with her club, including president for the year of 2020 to 2021. And Luzani Contreras Godboy is a mother of 3 and a longtime Rotarian. She uses her social work experience to support a number of Rotary projects, including disaster relief, education support, and the implementation of the Project Rachel. In this latter role, Luzani has worked with school directors, parents, teachers, and municipal governments to maximize their participation in raising the teaching and educational resource level of schools in the community of Central Petén in Guatemala. Welcome to all our panelists. As Regina said, this is the second in a series of 3 webinars on education in technology. Last week, on November 28th, we had a panel of experts discussing what works in technology and education projects, and they discussed insights from current evidence and research. And if you would like to review that webinar, it is available. It was recorded and is available. Today, we will be discussing planning your education technology projects and specifically discussing community assessment and measurement. And next week, the 14th of November, is our final webinar in this series, Planning Technology in Education Project, specifically focused on teacher training. And we always have many, many questions about teacher training and what options are available. So we encourage you and invite you to join us for that session as well. So the objectives for today's program is first, to understand how Rotary members are supporting measurable improvements in education, measurable improvements being our key. Secondly, You will learn how to conduct a community assessment for a technology and education project, and we'll have lots of examples there. And lastly, we will learn how to monitor and evaluate your project so that we really have evidence and strategies so that we know of the success that our projects have. So let's get started. Our first question for our panelists is, how are your projects supporting teaching and learning in schools? And Vanessa, why don't we start with you to look at what Rotary is looking for in grants and projects?
Right, definitely. Thank you, Carolyn. So Rotary members, clubs, and districts are supporting an array of different basic education and literacy projects all around the world. Some of these projects are being supported through TRF or the Rotary Foundation funding. In fact, 8.5% of all global grant funding is used to support the basic education and literacy area of focus. And many other BELP projects are also being carried out utilizing different types of funding. So funding sources directly from clubs and districts, from private foundations, Ministry of Education, community or business groups, partnering organizations, many others. We have seen examples of small service projects where, for example, a club in Indonesia has brought artificial intelligence professionals to talk to students about the technology and its practical use. And this was a one-day project in one school. But we also have examples of many global grants, like a vocational training team from Canada that went to Belize to support the Ministry of Education implementing a new curriculum in both schools and libraries. And this was done at the Cayo district in Belize. And that's just another example, kind of like from the big to from the small to big. All these projects help by addressing many aspects of education. So from infrastructure, materials, and tools, which are things that are a little bit more visible, to those that are a little bit harder to just see. So things like addressing the gaps of knowledge in teachers and staff and parents, to improving classroom curriculum, best practices to keep the students engaged and interested, including students with different learning styles, among many others. So we have a big range of project activities that members are supporting all over the world.
Super, thanks, Vanessa. Nellie, could you talk a little bit about your project in Panama and how you worked with community assessment?
Thank you very much, Caroline, and I must say that I'm happy to be here talking about a topic that is very extremely important for us in our club and in our country. One of the things that we have noticed with our project is the increased motivations that students and kids have to go to school in the first place, and to be participants and ready to learn what has happened, what is happening in the classroom. For the teacher, it has been also a motivation to be able to have new techniques, new methodologies, to be able to make classes more interesting, more dynamic, more inclusive. Because what it has been noticed is that in these particular cases, girls that did not participate in the past were eager to participate now with the technology that has been provided, and the way that the classrooms has been set up in the schools and set by the students, by the kids, is that what the technology have done for them is that it has allowed them to be able to understand better the different topics that teachers have presented in the schools in a more participatory manner. And that kids who did not participate in the past were keen in being part of the class and being able to learn what's happening. So we have noticed a change in terms of the classes being more dynamic, more collaborative with the different students, and have gone to a certain extent from the memorizing to try to develop some critical thinking and some investigations in the class. So all in all, we think that there has been a certain amount of improvement and interest in the schools once we have introduced the digital interactive classrooms in the various schools where we have placed them.
Thanks, Nellie. And that transformation of teaching, really making it interactive and getting kids involved is truly what this is all about. Luzani, could you share us a little bit about the Rachel Project and how that has supported teaching and learning in your area?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I'm very thankful of the opportunity to share our experience in the Rachel Digital Library that we are working with primary public schools here in the Petén area in Guatemala. I believe that the use of the Rachel system provides different alternative methods of teaching and learning, which is in both ways for the teachers but also the students. It has been necessary, of course, that the teachers go through a process of training and adaptation to the system. And of course, through its use, they have been applying what works best for them. Although we would love for everyone to use it the same way, right? But we understand that each team has its own work and dynamics. However, I want to share with you a particular thing that has been happening in most of the schools. When the students get to grips with all of the system, they are the ones that constantly keep asking the teachers to bring them back to the Rachel classrooms, which is great, right? Because even if the teachers here in Guatemala, the Ministry of Education will normally have a lot of work for the teachers, and I believe it's everywhere, but here they have a lot of programs they have to work on. So the students are the one asking. They keep, sort of making the pressure for the teachers, so that they can go back to the classroom. But also the teachers are using these different methods in their own classrooms, which means it's great, right? The Rachel Library allows you to browse through its content, but also allows you to download text, the videos, songs, etc., all of its contents. So we have taken on the tasks of teaching the moms to connect through their cell phones. And when they come to school to pick up the student, their sons and daughters, they can connect, they can download the information, and then when they are at home, they can go over it, study, and do the homeworks. We know of many cases where they do practice this on a regular basis. And even the teachers are beginning to leave specific homework so that their students can do it at home, right? So it's great.
Thanks, Luzani. Really great point about we see success when it starts to spread from school to the home and the community gets excited. Our next question speaks specifically to community assessment and how community assessment becomes an integral part of our project planning, how we take that information and really design the project so it's meaningful and representative of what the community is discussing. Luzani, can we start with you on your community assessment process?
Thank you. Well, I'm sure everybody will agree with us that the community assessment is definitely an essential part of every project. It's much of what will ensure the success of your project. since through that community assessment, you can be sure and you can define what the community really wants, right? Because it can help you define the root of what you should do and the way you can work on it. And of course, all of the people who are getting involved. And if they agree to get involved, you know. When it comes to our project, the Rachel Digital Libraries, believe me that when I heard about the project, and especially when I saw all of the system, the equipment, our eyes were, sparkled, because I dream of making it a reality in our schools, because it's in the rural communities of Guatemala, it's very difficult to have access to a computer. At this moment you can get access to smartphones, that's common, very common. But a student or the children, they will get access to the phone just to go through social media, right? Never thinking of using it for education. So that I really, I was so excited to get this project to the schools. However, not of all the teachers were really wanted to commit to all the work that had to be done and all of what it entailed, right? Also, another surprise was that we thought in getting involved the local authorities, asking them for very specific support. But my surprise were that they were willing to get involved and offered a lot more support than that what we were asking them. So it's very important that you get all the stakeholders included as from the moment when you begin doing the community assessment.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And just a side note, there have been several questions about Rachel and what a Rachel classroom is. And Peter Tanner is on the call as well, and he's answered several of those questions and very kindly put his email contact in if you'd like more information about the Rachel project. Nellie, could you talk a bit about the community assessment that you use? Because you, rather than working very focused within a community, are looking to replicate your project throughout the country of Panama. So how does community assessment in a broader sense work into your project?
Thank you, Caroline. The first thing that we must say is that our club has an emphasis in projects directed to education. By doing so, we had the opportunity to walk around the country and visit many, many schools in various provinces in the country. We had the opportunity to talk to the teachers, to the kids, to the parents, to the community at large, to the authorities, and try to learn and understand how the system works and what are the needs that are required. But we also found throughout that journey was the fact that very often you found a pile of equipment that was left to rot there. So we took the decision right from the beginning that our project was not a project for handing over equipment, that we had to go beyond the process of just hardware, but try to introduce the software or the teacher's training, as is called, to make sure that we bring the teachers up to par with all the advances in technology for teaching. So we try to understand the wishes of the people, the needs of the class, and what was able to be done in terms of updating the process in schools and getting the parents, teachers, associations involved in the whole process. This is a project that includes not only the equipment in terms of computers and interactive blackboard, but also a set of furnitures that, as you can see it in the picture, actually, which is part of our project, that is more for kids to collaborate together, and obviously a very, very strong teaching training component for teachers, because very often what you find is that there are teachers who don't even know how to turn on the computer, that kids are better trained, with better knowledge than what they have. So that was what we have gone through, and that's what we have developed in order to get the project functioning, and to make sure that all the various stakeholders participate in the whole process of the project. Right now, we have a number of digital interactive classrooms, including that one, 6 of them in the teachers training college, the main teacher training college in Panama, to make sure that the new generation of teachers already have the technology and the methodologies to be able to develop more interesting and more didactic classes in wherever they are found, in wherever they are placed by the Ministry of Education. Thank you, Carolyn.
Good points all the way around. Vanessa, to round this question out, could you talk a little bit about community assessment and the process, not just for global grants, but for local projects that clubs might be considering?
Right, and thank you so much. And I'm really excited that this question and this topic is being brought up in this webinar, because, like Lusani said, community assessments are an essential first steps when planning to support a project. And that project, as you mentioned, can be a big project or a small project. It can be done using foundation funding through global grants, or it can be done by a club independently from other type of funding. So I wanted to bring this up and keep that in mind, because I know sometimes members have this misperception that this is just a grants requirement, and this is something they have to do because the grant requires you to have this step. But the thing is that this steps allows the project implementers of any project to understand the educational space that they're trying to support. So by learning about the different stakeholder groups and talking to them and having a formal approach, is that they're going to be able to understand that space. And in general, that process can help you paint a better picture of the needs and deficiencies, yes, of course, but most importantly, it can also help you highlight the existing resources and the strengths of the education center that you are working with. Rotary members should avoid to have this bias of identifying themselves, what it is that is missing in a school or an educational center, and offering to provide those things. So going to the school, okay, they're missing this, this, and that. Do you want this, right? So the idea is that by having this meaningful conversation, you identify the center's priorities and the educational challenges of that particular place. Afterwards, then the most adequate initiatives must be selected and designed with those participants or key stakeholders that you have been having a conversation with and that you have been bringing to your community assessment process, so that the activities are implemented with their support and that ensures the continuity of the project in the future. So keep in mind that Rotary has many tools and resources to support this process of conducting a community assessment. We have a course in the Learning Center. Each district has a district resource network. There's technical experts like Cadre and Rotary Action Groups or RAGs. So make sure to utilize those resources as you are planning this project and as you are thinking about how to conduct this community assessment.
Super. Good points to keep in mind, not just for grants, but for all projects that we're involved in to involve the community. We're running a little bit behind, but I wanted to touch on how do we involve others in our community assessment, getting input from the Ministry of Education, teachers, students, parents. So if you could just very, very briefly talk about how you reached out to different stakeholders. And Vanessa, maybe we'll start with you this time.
Right. So every project environment and the characteristics of each projects are different. So the way that the stakeholders might be involved in the design and planning of the project is going to be different. We may see a case where the Rotary members of a club start a project because one member has a close relationship with this education center, maybe because they work there, maybe because the children attended the school. And then one day, a person from the stakeholder group brings the idea to starting a project with the Rotary Club, and the community assessment is initiated through that conversation with people that this member already knows. But in another case, we might have that the members of the club have a relationship with the Ministry of Education because they have engaged with them previously, or because there's a member that has a contact in the Ministry of Education, and then that's the relationship, but the members have never worked directly with the school they're going to support. So however the process is started, it's important that through the community assessment, different approaches are being gathered. So you can bring the approaches of the Ministry of Education and the principals, but it's also important to address teachers, the supporting staff, parent-teacher groups, the students themselves. And these groups will participate not only, again, in the identification of the needs or the challenges, but also on the solutions and the long-term plan, because they're going to be the ones that continue the activities after the project has been concluded. So keep that in mind.
That's great. Luzani, I know you've had some success getting your club involved in reaching out to stakeholders. Could you briefly talk about that process?
Sure. I totally agree with what Vanessa has mentioned before. I just want to add that if you, we all agree that it's fundamental to have direct contacts with all the stakeholders, right? But my recommendation would be, if in case we don't have that access, and it has worked for us, not only on this Rachel project, but also in other projects. In our communities, there's always one person that knows everybody in the community, and everybody knows him or her, you know, and you can look for that person, you can make the approach with that person, and ask for his or her support. Because it's very important that you can talk to the stakeholders in the community, where with somebody they can trust. And I mentioned this because I don't know how what's the reality in the rest of or in the communities of your countries, but in the case of Guatemala, the community needs to trust somebody, needs to trust you and your project, because they have had a lot of bad experiences, especially with the government projects that offer them to have, different projects. And at the end, they end up receiving nothing. That was the case specifically with the Rachel. When we came and offered them this project, they said, promise me that the equipment will come. I can work with you. I can give you my support. We can, raise funds. We can do anything you are asking us to do, but promise me that the equipment will come for our kids. So I think that it's very important that they can trust.
So important to be trustworthy. And Nellie, I know you've worked with some outside resources on your reaching out to your stakeholders. Could you talk about that process?
Yes, Caroline. What Luciani seems to have been talking about is the champions of your project. I think that very early in the game, There is need to identify or start developing a champion of a person who is going to promote favorably your project. What we originally did was to identify all the stakeholders, because there are stakeholders at community level, but there are other stakeholders that you need to identify and find what do they want, what do they love to see, what they would like to see, and what they can have in the particular project. And that's what we did. We did that right from the beginning, almost. And we also identified resources outside, sort of outside the Ministry of Education, in terms of the university, as we are the technological university in Panama, because we are dealing with a technological project in education, and who better ready to provide the technical assistance to do this. So we also look at and involve the technological university in Panama in various aspects of the projects and at various levels. It is very, very important. It was very, very important for us to identify the stakeholders at all the levels, at national level, at regional level, and at the community level, so that we can have them involved in the whole process, from identifying what it was required to updating the implementation of the project, to the continuation, because this is a technology project who will need, to a certain extent, at some point, replacement, and the community have to buy into the project and ensure that they can continue the project once Rotary has moved out. It is absolutely important that we manage to develop that capacity in terms of repairments, in terms of maintenance, in terms of replacement, in terms for the continuity of the project. So the mapping out of stakeholders at the various levels, it was very important. For us, the participation of the BELRAC, the Rotary Action Groups in Education, and the participation of the cadre in terms of monitoring and evaluation, and other cadres specifically in education, was very, very helpful in this process of identifying the stakeholders, involving those stakeholders, and making sure that they can buy into the project and continue the same project once Rotary sort of withdraw. Although I think that education for Rotary should be a continuous process. It's not just one project that begins one day that ends the next, but rather it has to have a continuous investment in what we need in terms of education, because technology changes continuously and we have to change with that as well. So the investment that we would need to do is probably a continuous process. So this is what we have done in the digital interactive classroom project. The one thing that we have started to develop is the idea of also developing a pro-education center to make sure that the teachers have the possibility of continuing their training process online, in presence, at their leisure time at some point. And this is one thing that we will try to develop with the University of the Technological University of Panama, so that process can go on without us. Thank you.
You've touched on really critical points of sustainability, both the sustainability of the equipment and then the sustainability of the knowledge and the knowledge and the learning and the process by the teachers. I'd like to ask each of the three of you to talk for a few minutes about how you made decisions on the academic goals of your project. After all, the whole point of this is to make sure that kids are stronger learners and they're advancing in their education. And then a little bit about how you measured progress toward your goals in academics. Nellie, would you start a bit?
Yeah, we are very much dependent on the actual tests that are conducted by the Ministry of Education. And there are three pieces of data that we seem to follow to a certain extent. One of them is the PISA exam, which is a program of international student assessment. It's a global test that is done in reading comprehension, mathematics, and languages. And I'm going to say my favorite phrase. While Panama before was behind the ambulance, now is trying to run besides the ambulance. We have just got the results of the 2022 test, and we have made some improvements, but we are far below what we should be having. So there is a lot of work to do. We have other two tests. One is what is called ATAL, which is a local diagnostic test that is called Aprendamos Todos a Leer, which measures reading comprehension, and it's done by the Ministry of Education at the beginning of the school year, and it's done another test at the end of the school year. And I must say with a little bit of a little bit pleased is that the schools where we have put the digital interactive classroom have already shown better performance than the schools, similar school, comparative schools, where the digital interactive classroom is non-existent. So we must be doing something right with the project that has allowed that to happen. Obviously, this does not go without the teachers' training, which is a very important component. And in that process of teacher trainings, we also have a test prior to the beginning of the course and at the end of the course. And what is the course all about? Digital competence. How teachers can use technology to impart their classes in a much better way. So that's another test that we have gone. And the third one that we have followed is the ERCE test, which is the Estudio Regional Comparativo y Explicativo, which is done at the regional level of Latin America. That again, Panama is not showing good results. So we are hoping that with what we are doing with the Teacher Training College will help us to improve a little bit. And the last thing that we are trying to make sure that we do is that we spread the model that we are developing to all other provinces in the country, with the exceptions of two, actually, throughout the country, so that this can be taken to the Ministry of Education as a possible methodology, as a possible model to do some improvements in the teaching and learning processes in the school. So this is what we are doing in terms of measuring progress. Of course, we are doing periodically surveys with teachers, with students, with kids, to see how the evaluate the project. What we have not done, I just realized it with the administrators, but that will be coming later. So I leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Nellie. Vanessa, could you talk a little bit about setting academic goals?
Yeah, the goal of a project should be identified by those participating in the community assessment. I keep going back to that. It's not something that should be imposed by the clubs providing the support. So no two schools will have the exact same situation. And only those that understand the current situation of this particular schools will be the ones to determine what it is that they want to improve. So things like decreasing dropout rates, improving testing scores in math, ensuring reading comprehension by a certain age or grade, like Nelly was mentioning, among many others. That is what the goal should be. On the other hand, delivering a certain amount of books, tablets, computers, educational tools, etc., cannot be considered a goal on its own. Training and follow-up to improve the quality of the education with the support of these tools must be integrated into that project planning. So in many cases, beyond the qualitative information provided by teachers and parents in those areas that require attention, like Nelly just mentioned, schools and ministries of education will have data that can help determine the best activities to implement to address those areas and measure its impact as the project is going and at the end of the initial intervention. For this, we cannot talk about just the standard goal that all education projects should be having. It's more of a customized thing that will be for each school in a different way. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about when planning that measuring on the ongoing or the monitoring and the evaluation at the end of the project, to keep in mind that, for example, training 100 teachers is not going to be a result of a project. That is just an output. That's just what happens, what you just get immediately. But the thing is that from those 100 teachers, you might have some that are not integrating the learnings into their classroom, or you might have some of those teachers that don't make it to the end of the year because they move to another school or just don't continue in that school, teaching in that school. So it goes beyond just measuring how many teachers you trained or how many computers you delivered. It's about the outcome. The monitoring and evaluation plan has to measure that, short and intermediate results, so that you can actually understand what it is that changed through the project that was implemented by the club.
Thanks. And Luzani, to follow up, talk about your academic goals with your project.
Okay, thank you. Well, we consider this a very important part of the project because we believe that this will definitely support the sustainability of the project. As from the moment we designed the project and we are running the community assessment, you must do that process of analyzing specifically what you want to achieve, because it definitely goes with how you are going to measure it, right? We sometimes dream of achieving many things, a lot of things with our project, right? And we want to get like the best of every project we do and benefit as much as we can all of the communities. But I think that the best part or the best thing we can do is get an expert advice, because we have the ideas of what we receive in the community, what they expect from our project, and also what we think we can do, but it's important for us to know how you're going to measure and how you are going, what you are going to do, because that will definitely affect how your planning of monitoring and the moments in which you are going to do that evaluation also. It will affect all of that during the process and the moment when you are running the project, right? So the best thing to do is, as I mentioned, get an expert advice. In our case, in this Rachel project, our international committee members have been very supportive in finding organizations like MIA, who have developed already instruments that allow us to measure progress in reading, grammar, and math. And it's very easy to use those instruments. And when we began working more closely with the Ministry of Education staff, they have been of a lot of help also, because they know their student community, they know the teachers, they know how the school works, and they have also been advising us on the moments we can do the evaluation and how we can, approach all of this measurement. Thank you.
Super, great points all the way around. We want to leave time for questions from our participants. So I think we'll close here on the formal presentation. We have lots of questions in the chat box. So I'd like to start, and Vanessa, I think I'll direct this one to you. One person put in that the school sent a letter to our Rotary Club with a request for computers. Can't this qualify as a community assessment? They told us what we need. Can't we just move forward from here?
Well, I just respond that with a question. Do you think that is everything that they need, or do you think that they have seen Rotary deliver computers in another school, and that's what they think that the organization does, or the clubs do? So would it be worth going back to the school and asking more questions and having a meeting with the stakeholders and understanding how the teachers are going to be using the computers? How are they going to be maintained in the future? Does the school have a way of maintaining this computers in the future? Because if they don't, then they're going to come back to you in 5 years, maybe less, and ask you for the exact same thing. So although the request comes directly from the school, it wouldn't be considered a comprehensive community assessment because there has not been a conversation with the necessary stakeholders. So I would just go beyond that and understanding the importance of understanding the school, the educational challenges. Are the educational challenges really related to the need of technology, or are they related to something else? So I will make it a little bit broader and go deeper into that, understanding of the school.
Excellent. Nellie, I'm going to direct this one to you. Someone put in that it's sometimes hard to work with our Ministry of Education in our country. So what suggestions would you have about getting introductions and starting to work in partnership with the Ministry of Education?
Well, I use the same technique that Vanessa used. I will ask the person, sometimes it's hard to work with Rotary. How do you manage to develop relationship with clubs and partners within Rotary? I mean, it's the same sort of technique that you will have to use to get into the Ministry of Education. But talking a little bit more seriously, I think that you have to make sure that when you talk to the Ministry of Education, you have a proposal. You have a value added to their offer. You must understand their needs, their priorities, their difficulties, because they have a lot of difficulties as well. And what do you have in your offer that can help them to resolve some of the questions? In that manner, I think that you start developing a relationship with the various actors in the Ministry of Education that will get you, in a sense, a seat on the table that once you need to talk to them, they will be ready to talk to you. So to me, that's important. Understand their needs, their challenges, their problems, their difficulties, and on the other hand, make sure that you have value added to at least solve some of the problems that they have, that gets you the door open anytime that you need to talk to the Ministry of Education. In that sense, we have managed to develop a good relationship with all the different levels, central, regional, community teachers. Make sure that you win the teachers and the administrators at the schools that get you where you want to get. And somehow we have managed to do that. But don't forget, working with Rotary is not any different than working with the Ministry of Education. It's just as hard. So think about that. Thank you.
It's all about partnerships. Absolutely. Luzani, maybe start with you, and then Nellie, if you could chime in. Could you talk just for a minute on how you created your monitoring and evaluation plan? How do you monitor your project?
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, I must confess that at the beginning, we had this very beautiful plan of supervision of schools. But unfortunately, we got a lot of inconvenience, a lot of them. Because, well, as Nellie just mentioned, it's very complicated to, have like the same timing with the teachers and the schools. They would normally have a lot of activities because they have to develop programs that are separate, or although they are, in common with education, but I mean it's separate than that their mandatory content. So it's very complicated to get to the schools in the correct moment when they will have all the time to work with you. So you can do the supervision, and at some points I personally did the supervision with the schools, and I came in to help them and to see if they had questions and to help them with their equipment and all of that stuff. But they would normally have other activities, and they would, just have a few minutes for us. So there was the need of hiring a person, a coordinator, to support us with the supervision and the technical support to the schools, and that went very good. Apart from that, we have the support from Mundo Posible, who are the creators of the Rachel Library, and they are in permanent support because they sent a report on the schools of how they are using the equipment, which pages they are consulting the most. Every teacher has its own user, and we can know who's been using the equipment and who hasn't. So that is of great help. And definitely what came to, we did like the click with the report from the coordinator, the report from Mundo Posible, and we have regular meetings with the Ministry of Education staff. They are supervisors of a number of schools, and we get to meet with them so we can share the results from the reports from Mundo Posible and the coordinator. And we have been working because at some points there are schools that are definitely into the libraries, but there are others that have been having ups and lows. So they are the ones that have the authority to go back to the teachers and the headmasters of the schools and ask them, we have this agreement, we need to work, or we need to do this, and they have been of great help.
Great. Nellie, did you want to just briefly talk about your monitoring and evaluation process?
I'll try to be very brief. I think that I mentioned that we made almost at the beginning a monitoring and evaluation chart with all the different stakeholders and what they needed to they needed in terms of the ministry, including the international host club, and we created and. Let's face it, we are not alone in this. We have a couple of clubs working with us in the other provinces. So if we cannot do it, sometimes they can do the job. On a regular basis, we visit the places at least once a month. And we have regular meetings with the Ministry of Education, the top level echelon, including the minister and the vice minister, every 3 to 4 months, updating them as to what is happening in the project and what are the difficulties that we are having in implementing the project. And at a lower level with the Department of Technology, or initially we had a weekly meeting to make sure that the school had the connectivity, that the school have all the necessary things that they have to do. And between ourselves, we also have a group that follows the process of monitoring and evaluation of the project. So we have different groups looking at different aspects of the monitoring and evaluation process. But one thing that I would like to stress is the assistance that we got from the beginning from CADRE and from BELRAC. That is absolutely important that people start using that resource that UNICEF, that Rotary has available for the different clubs. For us, was our saving angels that actually provided the resources that or the technical support that we needed at the beginning and throughout the process of monitoring and evaluation. I hope that answers your question, Caroline.
Thank you. That's terrific. We are coming to the end of our time. Thank you, Vanessa, Nellie, and Luzani. And I will put this back to Regina for some closing remarks and next steps.
Great. Thanks, Carolyn, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Please put in the chat how you will take action. I'm really excited about the conversation we've had today, and I just want to end us to remind us to fall in love with the problem and not the solution. And so we've been given 2 examples of Rachel in Guatemala and the digital learning classroom in Panama. And so falling in love with the problem means when we're going to communities and schools, we're finding what is their problem. We're not going in with the solution that we want to put a Rachel in a school. That's not where we start. We start with that community assessment and really trying to understand what does the school need and how can we design a project around what the school needs. And so making sure that we're not falling in love with computers and technology, though it is really great resources, we're falling in love with what the community and what teachers need to improve student learning, and that all of our projects in Rotary are all about improving student learning and student teaching. If you want to learn more and keep these conversations going, you can join the Basic Education and Literacy Rotary Action Group. We'll be sending you a link to a survey that they have. They have a special working group within BELRAG that talks about education technology projects, and I encourage you to join. And lastly, thank you all again for coming. Our next and final series will be on December 14th, where we will be talking about teacher training plans, because as we know, teachers are at the heart of everything that we want to do and want to see happening in education. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks.